Maya Johnson stepped into the sleek, glass-walled corporate office, her heart pounding with a mixture of excitement and anxiety. The morning sun streamed through the large windows, casting a warm glow on the polished floors. She took a deep breath, adjusting her blazer, and reminded herself of her hard work over the past few months. Today was the day of the crucial strategy meeting, a chance to showcase her contributions to the new project that could define her career. As she made her way to her desk, she overheard a conversation between her boss, Derek Thompson, and a couple of colleagues, their voices low but clear enough to catch her attention. "Honestly, I don't see what all the fuss is about with Maya," Derek scoffed, leaning back in his chair with an air of superiority. "She's ambitious, sure, but that doesn't mean she has the chops to lead this initiative. We need someone who can really deliver." Maya's heart sank. The words felt like a punch to the gut, igniting a fire of determination within her. She had poured countless hours into her research, crafting innovative strategies that could potentially turn the project around. Yet here was Derek, the embodiment of skepticism, dismissing her efforts without a second thought. She clenched her fists, a resolve solidifying in her mind. She would prove him wrong. The meeting began, and Maya sat at the long conference table, surrounded by her colleagues, most of whom shared Derek's sentiments. As he launched into the agenda, Maya felt the tension in the room. Derek presented her ideas from the reports she had submitted, detailing strategies she had meticulously developed, but without acknowledging her contributions. "This is a solid approach," he said, nodding to the slides that clearly bore her signature style. "We'll move forward with these recommendations." Maya's stomach churned. The words hung heavily in the air, a stark reminder of her invisibility in the room. When the opportunity arose for team members to share their insights, Derek seemed to overlook her entirely, turning his attention to others who echoed his thoughts. Each time he passed her by, her frustration grew, battling against the urge to speak up. She had worked hard to get here, and yet she felt like a ghost in her own meeting. After the session wrapped up, Maya left the conference room feeling dejected, her spirit dampened. But deep down, a flicker of resilience sparked. Alone at her desk, she began to brainstorm. She stayed late into the night, fueled by a mix of disappointment and determination. The fluorescent lights flickered overhead as she pored over her notes, her mind racing with ideas. "Okay, think," she muttered to herself, scribbling furiously in her notebook. "What can I do to streamline this project? There has to be a way to make our process more efficient." As she wrote, her thoughts began to crystallize into a coherent plan. She envisioned a new approach that would not only enhance productivity, but also foster collaboration among team members. The excitement of her idea ignited a spark of hope within her, pushing away the shadows of doubt. As the clock ticked past midnight, Maya leaned back in her chair, a satisfied smile creeping onto her face. For the first time that day, she felt a sense of purpose. She had something to present, something that could demonstrate her value to the team, despite Derek's dismissal. Maybe, just maybe, this would be her moment to shine. With renewed vigor, she resolved to refine her proposal and prepare for the next opportunity to share it. The corporate world might be filled with skepticism, but Maya was determined to rise above it, to show them all the strength and creativity she possessed. The morning sun streamed through the large glass windows of the corporate office, casting long shadows across the sleek, modern furniture. Maya Johnson sat at her desk, her heart racing with a mixture of hope and anxiety. Today was the day she would finally share her innovative proposal with the team. Yet, as she prepared her notes, the memory of yesterday's meeting lingered in her mind. Derek's dismissive remarks and her colleagues' unspoken doubts loomed over her like a dark cloud. After a deep breath, Maya decided to approach Sarah, her colleague, and one of the few people she felt she could confide in. She found Sarah in the break room, pouring herself a cup of coffee. "Hey, Sarah," Maya began, trying to sound more confident than she felt. "Do you have a minute?" "Sure, Maya. What's up?" Sarah replied, her tone casual, but her eyes scanning the room as if she were anticipating someone else's presence. Maya took a seat at the small table, her hands trembling slightly as she laid out her notes. "I've been working on an idea that I think could really help with the project. It's a way to streamline our processes and improve efficiency. Sarah raised an eyebrow, skepticism evident in her expression. That sounds interesting, but you know how the team is. They didn't seem too keen on your input in the last meeting. Are you sure this is the right time? Maya felt a wave of disappointment wash over her as Sarah's words echoed Derek's sentiments. I know it's a risk, but I really believe in this. I just need someone to back me up, she urged, her voice firm despite the uncertainty gnawing at her insides. Listen, I want to support you, but you have to understand the environment we're in. It's tough, Sarah said, her tone softening. Maybe it would be better to wait until we have more data or… No, Maya interrupted, her passion igniting. I can't wait. If I do, I'll just be sidelined again. I need to take this chance. Sarah sighed, her gaze shifting to the floor. Okay, but just be careful. I don't want you to get hurt. Maya nodded, grateful for the concern, yet feeling more isolated than ever. I appreciate that. I'll present my ideas today, regardless. As Maya returned to her desk, her heart pounded in her chest. The uncertainty of the meeting loomed ahead, but she felt a flicker of determination surge within her. She spent the next couple of hours refining her presentation, rehearsing her pitch in front of the mirror. Each repetition bolstered her confidence, reminding her of her passion for her work and the dreams she had nurtured since childhood. When the time came for the meeting, Maya took a deep breath and entered the conference room, where her colleagues were already gathered. Derek sat at the head of the table, a confident smirk on his face as he prepared to dismiss her once again. Maya felt her heart race, but she clutched her notes tightly, refusing to let fear overcome her. All right, everyone, Derek began. Let's dive into our strategies for the upcoming quarter. Maya raised her hand tentatively, her voice steady despite the fluttering in her stomach. Actually, I'd like to present an idea I've been developing. The room fell silent, and Derek's expression darkened as he glanced at her. Maya, we've got a full agenda. Are you sure this is the right time? His dismissal stung, but Maya pressed on. I believe this could significantly enhance our efficiency and profitability. She launched into her presentation, detailing her innovative solution with fervor. As she spoke, she could see some of her colleagues nodding, intrigued by her approach. But as she finished, Derek cut her off, his tone condescending. That sounds great in theory, Maya, but we need something practical. We can't afford to pursue ideas that haven't been tested. Frustration bubbled within her, and she fought to maintain her composure. But Derek, I've outlined a clear plan with actionable steps. It's not just a theory, it's a solution. Let's focus on what we know works, he insisted, effectively silencing her. Maya felt the sting of rejection wash over her again, and she struggled to keep her voice steady as she replied, I truly believe that this could make a difference. The meeting continued, but Maya felt the weight of her colleagues' gazes, some sympathetic, others indifferent. As she sat back down, the disappointment settled heavily in her chest. She had poured her heart into this idea, only to be dismissed once more. The isolation she had felt earlier morphed into a fierce resolve. She wouldn't let this setback define her. Maya glanced around the room, feeling the shadows of doubt creeping in again. But she reminded herself that she had come too far to turn back now. Determined, she began plotting her next steps, her mind racing with possibilities. This was not the end. It was just the beginning. Maya sat at her desk, the glow of her computer screen illuminating the late hour while the rest of the office lay shrouded in darkness. Despite the exhaustion creeping into her bones, she felt a surge of determination coursing through her. She was poring over the data she'd collected from her small-scale implementation of her innovative solution, and the preliminary results were promising. Her heart raced as she recalled the initial skepticism she faced from her colleagues, particularly from Sarah. Now, she was on the brink of proving them all wrong. Okay, Maya, just a bit more, she murmured to herself, her fingers flying over the keyboard as she prepared a concise report to share with Sarah. The numbers were telling a story, one that she hoped would resonate with her colleague. After a few hours of meticulous work, she finally leaned back in her chair, a satisfied smile creeping onto her face. The graphs and data points highlighted an upward trend, evidence that her idea was not just innovative but also effective. The next morning, Maya found Sarah in the break room, pouring herself a cup of coffee. The atmosphere was buzzing with the chatter of colleagues preparing for another day of meetings. Maya took a deep breath, her heart racing as she approached Sarah. "Hey, can we talk for a minute?" Maya asked, her voice steadier than she felt. "Sure, what's up?" Sarah replied, looking slightly puzzled but willing to listen. Maya pulled out her laptop and opened a report she had prepared. "I wanted to share the results from my project. I think you'll find it interesting," she said, her excitement bubbling beneath the surface. As Sarah glanced at the screen, her brow furrowed in concentration. "Wow, this is impressive," she finally admitted, her tone shifting from skepticism to intrigue. "You actually pulled this off?" Maya felt a rush of relief wash over her. "Yes, I implemented my idea on a smaller scale, and the feedback has been overwhelmingly positive. I'm hoping to present this to the team again. I think it could really change the direction of our project." Sarah nodded slowly, her expression thoughtful. "I didn't think it would work, to be honest. But seeing this, it's hard to deny you've made a strong case. Are you planning to share this at the next meeting?" Maya hesitated for a moment, then replied, "I was hoping to, but I heard Derek scheduled another meeting to discuss approaches without me in the loop." A frown creased Sarah's forehead. "That's not right. You deserve to be in that conversation." As they continued to discuss the project, Maya felt a flicker of hope. Maybe, just maybe, she could turn the tide in her favor. The camaraderie she had longed for began to form, and Sarah's change of heart gave Maya the encouragement she needed. Later that afternoon, Maya sat at her desk, a mix of anticipation and anxiety swirling within her. She had spent the last few hours refining her presentation, ensuring that every detail was perfect. However, the nagging thought that Derek could undermine her efforts loomed large in her mind. "Maybe I should just go to the meeting and make my case anyway," she pondered aloud, her determination battling against the fear of rejection. As she prepared, she recalled the words of her mentor, who had always emphasized the importance of resilience. "Even when the odds are against you, stand firm. Your voice matters," she could hear him say. Just then her phone buzzed. It was a message from Sarah. "I'll be there to support you. Let them see what you can do." Maya's heart swelled with gratitude. She knew that having Sarah's backing could make all the difference. With renewed vigor, she organized her notes, confident in the knowledge that she had done the work and that her ideas were valid. However, when she walked into the conference room for the meeting, she felt her heart drop. Derek stood at the head of the table, outlining strategies for the project, completely unaware of the storm that was brewing. Maya listened intently, a sense of dread creeping in as she realized that he was discussing concepts eerily similar to her own, but without the innovative flair that she had developed. "Today, I want to talk about some new approaches we can take to boost our productivity," Derek began, his voice smooth and authoritative. Maya felt a knot tighten in her stomach as he continued, outlining a plan that mirrored her own ideas but lacked the critical nuances that made her proposal unique. As she listened, the frustration bubbled within her. This was her moment, and here he was, attempting to sideline her once again. The meeting progressed, and Maya found herself at a crossroads, teetering between speaking up and retreating into silence. But one thing became clear. She could not let this opportunity slip away. She had worked too hard and overcome too many barriers to allow Derek to steal her thunder yet again. The clock was ticking, and she knew she had to act fast. Maya stood outside Derek's office, her heart racing. The tension in her chest felt almost unbearable as she gathered her thoughts for what she knew would be a pivotal confrontation. She could hear the muffled sounds of the meeting beginning inside, a mixture of voices that made her stomach churn. Taking a deep breath, she pushed the door open and strode in, her expression set with determination. "Derek, do you have a moment?" she asked, trying to keep her voice steady despite the whirlwind of emotions inside her. Derek looked up from his notes, a flicker of annoyance crossing his face. "Maya, now isn't the best time. We're just about to start discussing strategy." "I understand, but I need to speak with you about my proposal," she pressed, stepping closer to the conference table. "I truly believe my approach could benefit the project." He leaned back in his chair, crossing his arms. We've already got a strategy outlined. We don't need to revisit your idea right now. It's not the right time. Frustration bubbled within her. Derek, with all due respect, you didn't even give my proposal a chance in the last meeting. You dismissed it outright without considering its potential. His expression hardened. I appreciate your enthusiasm, but sometimes we have to move on from certain ideas. Let's focus on what we have in front of us. Maya clenched her fists, holding back the anger that threatened to spill over. This isn't just enthusiasm, Derek. I've put in countless hours refining that idea, and it's not just an idea, it's a solution that could save the project. Derek waved her off dismissively. I'm sure you think so, but we're in the middle of a critical phase right now. You need to trust the process. As he turned back to his notes, Maya felt a surge of empowerment. Trust the process? She echoed, incredulous. What happens when the process leads us to mediocrity? What happens to innovation? Derek finally looked at her, his eyes narrowing. This is a corporate environment, Maya. Innovation is great, but it needs to align with our current objectives. We can't just pivot every time someone has a new idea. With her heart pounding, Maya took a step back, realizing she was not going to get through to him right now. I understand. Just know that this is not the end. I'll be ready to present my work when the time comes. She turned and walked out, her resolve hardening as she left his office. The anger she felt was now transformed into motivation. She would prove her worth, not just to Derek, but to everyone who had doubted her. The meeting room was filled with a palpable energy as Derek began his presentation. Maya took a seat at the back, her heart heavy with the knowledge that Derek was about to present an uninspired strategy that echoed her own ideas. As he spoke, she felt her stomach twist in knots. Today, we're moving forward with a streamlined approach to our project, Derek announced, flipping through slides that looked eerily similar to her own. We believe this will enhance our efficiency and ensure we meet our deadlines. A murmur of agreement rippled through the room, but Maya felt her heart sink deeper. She knew those were her words, her concepts, stripped of the passion and innovation she had infused into them. The team nodded along, unaware of the theft that was taking place before their eyes. After the presentation concluded, Derek opened the floor for questions. Maya hesitated, feeling a mix of anger and helplessness boil within her. Finally, she raised her hand, her voice steady but laced with emotion. Derek, can we revisit the core aspects of the strategy? Some of these ideas are strikingly similar to the ones I proposed. Derek shot her a look that was equal parts irritation and disbelief. We're all contributing to this project, Maya. Let's focus on the collective effort rather than singling out ideas. But these are not collective ideas, she insisted, her cheeks flushing. I detailed these concepts in my reports. I deserve acknowledgement for my contributions. Maya, we're all on the same team, he said, dismissing her with a wave of his hand, and the meeting proceeded as if she hadn't spoken. Feeling powerless, Maya left the meeting room, her frustration morphing into a fierce resolve. She needed to confront Derek again, but this time, she would come prepared with evidence. As she walked back to her desk, she mulled over potential strategies to gather proof of her contributions and Derek's appropriation of her work. Determined not to let this moment define her, she began to document her ideas meticulously, gathering every piece of evidence. She had to show that her work was not only valid but essential. Maya knew that her journey was far from over. She was ready to rise above the challenges and prove her worth in a way that no one could ignore. Maya sat at her desk, surrounded by stacks of papers and her laptop humming softly. The fluorescent lights above flickered intermittently, but she was too absorbed in her task to notice. For days, she had been meticulously compiling documentation of her work. Everything from her initial ideas to the data collected from her small-scale project. She had reached out to colleagues who had witnessed her brainstorming sessions and had taken note of her innovative suggestions, gathering testimonials that would support her case. Each new piece of evidence felt like a small victory, and with every passing hour, her resolve solidified. She took a deep breath, recalling the moment when her heart had sunk in the last meeting, watching Derek shamelessly present her ideas as his own. Anger simmered beneath her calm exterior, but it was tempered by a sense of purpose. It was time to reclaim her narrative and prove her worth to the company. Maya, Sarah's voice broke through her concentration, and she looked up to see her colleague standing hesitantly at her cubicle. I've been talking to a few people, and I think I can help you with the presentation. Maya's heart lifted. Really? That would be amazing. I could use all the support I can get. Sarah stepped closer, her expression serious. I've heard some whispers from the executives about the upcoming board meeting. Derek is trying to discredit you, you know. He's telling them that you're not a team player. Maya clenched her fists. That's ridiculous. I've poured my heart into this project. I've collaborated with anyone who showed interest. I know, Sarah said quickly, but you know how things are. If we're going to counter him, we need to come prepared. I can gather testimonies from others who believe in your work. We can show them the truth. Maya nodded, gratitude swelling in her chest. Thank you, Sarah. I appreciate you stepping up like this. The following days became a whirlwind of preparation. Maya and Sarah worked late into the night, fine-tuning Maya's presentation. They rehearsed her delivery, ensuring that she could articulate her vision clearly and confidently. Maya felt a surge of empowerment as she practiced, each iteration polishing away the self-doubt that had plagued her for months. On the day of the presentation, Maya dressed meticulously, donning a confident navy blazer that complemented her complexion. She arrived early, the adrenaline coursing through her veins as she set up her laptop in the conference room. The walls were lined with glass, offering a view of the bustling city, but all she could focus on was the task ahead. As the executives began to filter into the room, Maya's heart raced. She exchanged polite nods and smiles, but the tension was palpable. Derek entered last, his presence commanding and confident, a stark contrast to Maya's rising anxiety. He shot her a fleeting glance, and in that moment, she felt a wave of determination sweep over her. This was it. The room settled, and Derek began with his usual bravado. Thank you all for coming. Today, I'll be discussing our strategic plan for the upcoming quarter. As he droned on, Maya's mind raced. She could see it, the similarities between his presentation and her original ideas, the lack of credit. She took a deep breath, reminding herself of the evidence she had gathered, the support from her colleagues. Finally, when it was her turn, Maya stood up, her heart pounding. Thank you, Derek. I appreciate the groundwork you laid out, but I believe there's an innovative angle we can explore. Derek's eyes darkened, but Maya pressed on. She showcased her findings, the data highlighting the success of her approach, the testimonials from her colleagues reinforcing her claims. This isn't just my work. It's a collaborative effort that demonstrates the potential of our team when we embrace diverse ideas. As she spoke, she noticed the executives leaning in, their eyes flickering between her and Derek. The tension grew, and she could sense Derek's discomfort. I have gathered evidence of my contributions and the discussions that led to these ideas. I believe it's crucial for us to acknowledge where our strategies originate. Suddenly, Sarah stood up from her seat, her voice steady as she addressed the room. I can attest to Maya's contributions. I've seen her work tirelessly to develop these ideas, and I believe it's time she receives the recognition she deserves. Maya's heart soared at Sarah's support, but she also saw the fury in Derek's eyes. He attempted to interrupt, but the executives were now focused on Maya and Sarah, their expressions turning from skepticism to intrigue. Derek's attempts to undermine her fell flat as the board members began to ask questions, probing deeper into Maya's project and its potential impact. She felt a rush of exhilaration as she answered confidently, each response reinforcing her credibility. Maya knew this was the moment she had worked for. She had risen above the doubt and prejudice, ready to claim her rightful place in the room. The stakes were high, and she was prepared to expose the truth, no matter the cost. Maya stood at the front of the expansive boardroom, her heart racing as she prepared to present her evidence. The atmosphere was thick with tension as the executives settled into their seats, their expressions a mixture of curiosity and skepticism. The long oak table gleamed under the overhead lights, reflecting the seriousness of the moment. She could feel the weight of their gazes, particularly Derek's, who sat at the far end, arms crossed defiantly. "Good afternoon, everyone," Maya began, her voice steady despite the thundering of her heart. "Today, I'm here to share the results of my project and highlight some critical discrepancies regarding the recent strategy proposal led by Derek Thompson. She felt a surge of adrenaline as she clicked to her first slide, revealing charts and graphs showcasing her work. As you can see, my approach not only streamlined the project, but also increased productivity by 30% over the last quarter. Maya's confidence grew with each word, bolstered by the data she had meticulously compiled. The room was silent, save for the sound of her voice and the soft hum of the projector. She could see the executives lean in, their interest piqued. However, she continued, I noticed some alarming similarities between my proposal and Derek's presentation during our last meeting. She clicked to the next slide, which displayed side-by-side comparisons of her original ideas and Derek's recent strategy. Derek shifted uncomfortably in his chair, a hint of color rising to his cheeks. Maya, this isn't necessary, he interjected, his tone laced with irritation. We're here to discuss the current strategy, not rehash past issues. Maya held her ground, and the room fell silent again. With all due respect, Derek, it is necessary, she replied, her voice unwavering. The integrity of our work is at stake. I've gathered testimonials from colleagues who can attest to my contributions and the ideas that have been appropriated. She gestured towards Sarah, who was seated in the audience, her expression a blend of support and apprehension. At that moment, Sarah stood, gathering her courage to speak. I can confirm that Maya's ideas were not only dismissed during our meetings, but were later presented as Derek's own. The executives' heads turned as one, their eyes narrowing on Derek. I've seen how her contributions have been sidelined, and it's unfair to let this go unaddressed. The board members exchanged glances, their brows furrowing as they processed Sarah's statement. The atmosphere shifted, and the tension thickened, as if the very air had changed. Derek's face flushed with anger. This is a blatant attack on my leadership, he snapped, his voice rising. Maya is simply trying to undermine me because she's threatened by my position. Maya took a deep breath, refusing to let his words shake her resolve. This isn't about personal attacks, she countered. It's about accountability and fostering a culture where everyone's contributions are valued. If we don't address this now, we risk perpetuating a toxic environment. As Derek opened his mouth to respond, the lead executive, Mr. Henderson, raised a hand to silence him. Let's focus on the facts presented, he said firmly. It's crucial for us to understand the dynamics at play here. He turned his attention back to Maya. What do you propose we do moving forward? Maya's heart raced. This was her moment. I believe we need to restructure the project leadership to ensure that innovative ideas are recognized and credited appropriately. I am ready to lead this initiative, as I have the data to back up our potential for success. She felt a swell of pride, her hard work and resilience shining through. After a tense pause, the board members began to nod in agreement. Mr. Henderson glanced towards Derek, his expression stern. Derek, we will need to review your leadership approach moving forward. This culture of exclusion cannot continue. The room erupted in murmurs, a blend of disbelief and agreement. Maya couldn't believe what was happening. In a stunning twist, the board members made their decision clear. Not only would they promote Maya for her innovation and dedication, but they would also remove Derek from his position, citing his unethical behavior. As she absorbed the news, Maya felt a wave of relief wash over her. She had risen above the trials of her workplace, proving that her hard work and integrity had triumphed over the biases that sought to hold her back. Now, as she prepared to lead her project, she felt a renewed sense of purpose and determination. The future was bright, and she was ready to embrace it.